Welcome to the Stay Curious podcast brought to you by Alpha UK. My name's Chloe and this is Alex.
This podcast is all about being open-minded, staying curious and fueling your intrigue. We're going to be hearing stories from people all across the UK and beyond. We're going to be covering big things, small things, the totally irreverent as well as the deeply theological. We hope you have fun listening along.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Stay Curious podcast.
It's great to be with you. We are back again for another episode and another highlight of my journey towards turning 40, Chloe.
Yeah, as you know, we kick off with Alex's 40 before 40 challenges before he turns 40 next year.
Yeah.
This year.
Yes,
it's coming up soon.
It's coming up soon. Yeah,
so,
I've got 4 months left.
You've ticked another one off recently, Al. What have you done?
Yeah, well, I ran a half marathon.
Wow, that's impressive.
Thanks very much. I did, again, no training.
Classic Al.
Yes, I had planned to do a lot of training. I booked it in, and then in the weeks running up to it, just didn't do any...
Couldn't be bothered.
No. And then the night before, I actually did it with producer Josh, who produces the podcast, who is like 15 years younger than me.
And a pro. Like, he's done actual marathons. Not that half marathons aren't an actual
he's done
marathon.
A real marathon.
He's done long ones,
And I was sort of with my wife Liz, having a bottle of wine on a Saturday night, watching some TV, and then...
thought, I could do that.
Well, no, producer Josh popped in and was like, I think we should do it. Right, let's get up at 8 o'clock and run a half marathon. It was in a rate...
The next day?
Yeah. It was like at an event. It was like a half marathon event.
Right.
So, yeah.
How'd you do? Do you remember your time? Or you don't want to tell people?
Yeah. I did it in 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Nice. Well, I think that's good.
Well, I got around.
I've never done one, so
yeah, I survived.
Yeah, you did it.
Yeah.
With no training.
With no training, yeah.
Well
it wasn't
done,
enjoyable in any way.
No, you wouldn't do it again?
No.
You wouldn't do a full?
No.
No.
Not in any way.
Well, I ticked it off.
Yep.
Maybe we should add a full marathon to your 40 before 40.
No. Not interested. No.
Well, at the start of the podcast, we also answer some questions. You've been sending them in about what you're curious about. And this week's question says, I'm curious to know what is your latest or your biggest uh-oh moment? Like a face palm, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I just did that.
Okay.
So I can actually think of one that I did really recently. So I was driving to our church service on a Sunday morning, and in Wales I've
just thought of a really good one for mine.
For yours?
Yeah,
can I finish?
Yeah, you finish yours. Yeah.
In Wales, they've turned everything to 20 miles an hour. So everyone's driving really slow. And I was late for church. So I happened to be driving a little bit up someone's car bonnet. I did repent about it later. And I was like, come on, this person's driving so slow, I'm going to be late. And I was like up their bum a little bit. And then... we came to the turn-in into church and they indicated left and I was like, oh no, they went into our church and parked and I quickly parked and ran out of the car so they wouldn't see it was me. And I was like, oh, that was a big facepalm moment.
You always have to be
I learned my lesson.
When you are in church ministry that you don't have road rage and then you realise it's congregation.
It wasn't road rage.
No.
I was just running a bit late.
Yeah.
Why? What was yours?
The one that pops in my head actually involves you. So,
why?
Do you remember the other day when you sent
I
me
know what this is.
Okay. Of a COVID test?
Yes.
So I think you'd just come back from
I'd been traveling in Malaysia and I caught COVID and I was really, really ill. And I text my boss, a picture of my COVID test. Throwback to 2020, although,
I think I must have woken up to it.
Alex replied...
No, let me say it. I basically woke up to this thing and I hope this is okay to say, but also I am practicing for if you do send me a news that you're pregnant and you're going off on maternity leave, that my response won't be that I'm panicking about your work, but instead that my response will be amazing, congratulations.
So I just get a really what I thought was a sarcastic text from Alex, yay, congratulations. And I thought, oh, cheers, Al.
I went, oh, amazing, this is such great news.
And I was like,
congratulations. Send my love to Russo. And
I was like, I can't believe you said that. I'm so ill lying in bed and you're like, yay, congrats. And then it suddenly dawned on me, he thinks my COVID test is a pregnancy test.
Yes. I was tired and just glanced at it and was choosing to be joyful about losing my associate national director for the next year.
Well,
appreciate it. Which is whenever you do send a pregnancy test, I will of course be delighted.
I'm not going to be sending you a pregnancy test. Is that a thing? No.
You weed on that.
Yeah, no. I did a little stick up my nose for COVID. Yeah.
I did think it was a strange way to let me know that you were pregnant.
Yeah, well. Anyway,
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, we would love to introduce our special guest today, Rhys Stephenson. Hello,
Hi.
Rhys.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Now, you might, if you have kids, you might know Rhys from CBeebies. Or if you're a Strictly Come Dancing fan, you might know Rhys from Strictly, amongst many other things.
Well, yeah, I always get the Charleston when people see me. It's like Charleston or Hey Dougie. It's one of those kind of.
Yeah, okay. Your Charleston was excellent.
Thank you. I'm learning to say just take it, because the first one to do is be like, it's fine. No, thank you.
Was that your favourite dance?
Almost. It was Spider-Man. Yeah, I always say, and I think because I only ever did it once, and so it's kind of immortalized in my head as, what an amazing time. But the Charleston is great because I can just bust it out any time now. Whenever people are like, show us a move, Quicksilver, and they all like disperse and they're satisfied.
So you might not know this, Al, but I actually met Rhys at a wedding. That's how we met.
Yeah, Owl Half.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Owl. And Rhys got onto the dance floor and everyone was like, wow, because you were full on doing the moves with my sister-in-law. You guys were great.
We went for it.
Yeah.
We did. It was great because she, because your sister-in-law Precious it was funny because I was there with Beth, my fiance, and then Precious there, her husband. And both Precious and I love to boogie. But our partners are very kind of like, quite timid, and they're like, oh, okay. And then, so like...
They're like box dancers.
Yeah, it's like Precious and I will be dancing with my partners and stuff. And then at one point, Precious and I just kind of like did some kind of two-stepping together and like got down. But like in a way that was kind of more like, we were in like a dance group, but it was just us two just popping, locking and stuff. It was great.
Matthew and Beth slowly just moved out of the dancing circle and left Precious and Rhys.
Let them do this.
Let them have their moment.
It was almost like they let the excitable children just go out and have some fun.
It was great though. It was like a live show, Strictly.
Amazing. It's really good. Now, cards on the table. I don't watch Strictly Come Dancing.
That's fine. I think people always expect to jump over the table.
How dare you?
But I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, two daughters, 10 and 7, and they are obsessed. Like, totally obsessed, deep down in their bones. And every Saturday and Sunday night, they're allowed to have the iPad, and they like have a little TV night in their room, and they come running down going, oh, what was it this week? They're like, Florrie came running downstairs, Florrie 7. I can't remember the name of the couple, but it's Nikita and someone.
Oh, you mean in this year?
In this series,
Nikita and Leighton.
Yes, she came downstairs and burst into tears because, I don't know, maybe they got voted.
Bottom two.
Yes, I think that's what it is. And she was literally in floods of tears because they're her favourite two, Nikita and Leighton. And I didn't know what she was talking about, but it felt really important at the time. But I told them both that I was meeting somebody who had been on Strictly Come Dancing, and they lost their minds. They absolutely lost their minds. They've got a lot of questions they want to cover.
Okay.
What is Claudia Winkelman like?
Cool.
How much dancing did you do every day? What is Tess Daly like? What's Claudia Winkelman like?
Give us the
What's
details.
Tess Daly
Right,
like? A lot of chat around Claudia and the judges. Florrie, in advance of me doing this, created like a stapled together pack of drawings of everybody in Strictly and the judges and what they were like and descriptions and Mopsy. And,
so you would know what to say.
Craig Revel, teaching me what they were all like. And Mopsy is kind and someone else, but Craig is not very kind and doesn't normally give good scores. Yeah,
well, let's hear from the expert,
Wow.
shall we?
Okay, right. Let me
give
try
us the
and
details.
give the lowdown on the whole thing. All right. So Claudia Winkelman is lovely and like incredibly witty, like dangerously clever with her jokes and stuff. And what you get on TV is kind of like 20% of what she could really do. But obviously it's the BBC, so you've got to be careful. But she's hilarious and really lovely. The judges, Motzi is awesome. She was kind of like my champion the whole time. She was almost like a big sister for me. Anytime I was kind of feeling like unsure of myself, she was there to kind of like slap me out of it.
I've just said her name wrong, but Florrie wrote it wrong in my defence.
Yeah.
So
She's 7. Can she spell?
No.
Don't mix up the P's and the T's.
Yeah.
But yeah, Motzi's amazing. Anton is exactly as you see him on TV, just this kind of suave, debonair kind of guy. He kind of like swans in, gives you a few lines, and then swans off, almost just like a fairy in a suit. He's just like, hey, clean your dishes before you go to bed. Boom. He just like disappears or something with a cravat. I don't know. And he's gone. And then you've got Shirley. And Shirley's actually quite shy. When I've spoken to her, she's quite reserved. But I'm so intimidated by her. She's almost like a head teacher. But she's very, very lovely. But yeah, very, very kind of really proper and classy. And then Craig, And I'm sorry if I'm bursting bubbles, but he's actually a really lovely man. It's all put on.
It's all an act.
There are times afterwards where, like, if he said something that maybe might have been particularly maybe harsh or critical, sometimes he will go, or even after the show's done and stuff, or if you've gotten voted out, he'll come and say, I'm sorry. I really hope it didn't hurt. I'm playing a character. Like he's a really lovely man. He really is. That's just it's what he's got to play on Strictly. But I feel over the years he's gotten softer. Because I think he used to be a lot more cutthroat back in the day. Yeah. And now I don't think he ever gives criticism without at least giving like a little bit of positivity to people now. So that's that. The show's a juggernaut. It's incredible. Like, it is actually impressive how they do everything. How much dancing do I do? It was kind of like 10 hours a day.
Whoa,
really?
are you serious?
Yeah, it was kind of mad. Like,
So
do you live?
do you have to like give up your job essentially?
Yeah. Well,
Of...
CBBC, I came up with a deal with them, and it was for the first 6 weeks, I would do train Monday and Tuesday, because I was down in London. Train Monday and Tuesday, and then on the Wednesday I would do training and then travel up that night to Manchester, and then Thursday I'd be on CBBC, and then so that day wasn't rehearsals. Do CBBC, and then after CBBC I get on the train straight back. No, I'm lying. I did Monday, Tuesday, and then Tuesday I travelled up to Manchester. Then did CBBC the Wednesday, travelled back Wednesday night, and then trained Thursday. And then Friday was rehearsals, and we carried on. So that was the thing. So for 6 weeks I did that. And then after 6 weeks, we had the deal that I could stay down and just like commit properly to the show.
Okay, because it was already so far along.
Yeah.
You were really deep in.
Well, because by that point it gets so intense, you need every single day to do it. Like if you miss a day, like when you hear stuff where they'll say, "Oh, so and so was really ill, had to miss a day," it's actually a huge deal.
Wow.
Because you don't get that long to train in the week. Actually, people always think 7 days. It's actually 4.
Wow.
Because the Friday you rehearse on the stage or the dance floor. Or the
so you have to have it nailed by then, presumably.
Yeah, well, yeah, you've got it, because that rehearsal is really for the cameramen and camera ops and lighting and stuff to see how they can make it look great on TV. And you get 3 chances, and then you go home and you rest. So you only get Monday to Thursday.
Sunday is like on the show. Could you already dance before?
Yeah, I could. I did street dance in school, and I loved dancing. I had rhythm, so people always said when you're going to do Strictly all the time. But I'd never done ballroom. I had no idea what ballroom was about. Okay. I didn't know, I didn't know how serious certain things were, like where you place your thumb or where your toe pointed when you dance. For me, I just thought if it looked good, that should be enough. Yeah. And I'd watched Strictly for years before I did the show, so I always thought I knew what you needed to do. And then suddenly it would be like, Nancy, I'd do a move and I thought that was great, and Nancy would be like, no, your toe pointed left, it should point right. And I'm like, but it looks good. It's like, no, but that's the point. Right. They're going to be bothered by that. And I think, why?
Technical.
So technical. I said it's one of the times where you actually do sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
I really sadly haven't got rhythm. It's really sad.
Sorry about that.
I can't dance at all.
They would work on that.
Sometimes
you'd be out in the first round.
I would be out in the first round, and I'd really embarrass myself.
You should do I'm a Celeb instead.
Well, I'm not going to do either. It's not like they're both on the table.
You never know.
I get offered both every year. I'm like, no.
If any producers are listening to the podcast,
I sometimes argue that. Well, I think everyone does, but saying an argument that you have no rhythm sometimes actually helps you in certain dances, because some of them are so technical that my natural rhythm actually was a bit of a hindrance.
You had to rein it in.
Yeah, I had to really rein it in so many times. Like chilling out was like the main on the show. Like my whole journey was about reining the energy. It was always too much energy, which I always found really frustrating, because energy was always the thing I was always praised for. It was, my job that I do, energy was always a good thing. I'd always known it as being a good thing, and I thought, how can energy be a bad thing on a dance floor and enthusiasm? And yet suddenly you get people who are like, he moves back too fast and stuff or whatever, and I thought, it's a jive. Well, that's the point. So it was a real culture shock, because I thought, oh, this is dancing, but this is like regimented dancing. You've got to kind of do it a certain way. So like with tango or waltz and stuff, sometimes almost having no rhythm allowed the dancer to then really make your blank canvas and indoctrinate you into moving the way they want you to. Whereas it was a battle between me and Nancy sometimes, because she's like, do this. I was like, but my body wants to do this.
I want to be free.
I want to be free. Let off the chains and all that kind of stuff.
On one of the episodes, Rhys, they went to your church and you were able to speak about your faith a little bit. Tell us about that, like going behind the scenes of your faith.
That was cool, because it was a couple's choice, and so on couple's choice, they're always about trying to get a personal story from you. And so in my head, though, it's always something, you know, really deep. Like someone might have had a bereavement or an illness they overcame or something really deep that went on. And I didn't think I had anything like that in my head. I mean, there was like my own mum had I remember my mum had a heart attack, but I just didn't want that to be a theme of something. You know, I didn't like the idea of kind of capitalizing off the pain of my family member. So instead, I just went, look, well, the most personal thing to me that I can talk about is my faith. I never really get to speak about it on TV because, you know, rules about certain things and inclusivity. So I was like, could I talk about that? And I fully expected the VT team to go, Rhys, we'd love to, but sorry, you know, we've got to think about the people and stuff. And they just went, yeah, okay, why not? And I went, what? And they said, sure. And in my head, I still thought, you know what? They're still going to strip down everything I say. So like, I'll think it's a victory, but they'll still like find a way to kind of neutralize it. But I sat down and they filmed, just went talk. And I just talked deeply about it. And, you know, I think one of the things that people really held on to was, one thing I said was, God's always been the biggest constant in my life. Throughout my whole life, the one thing that's always been there has been God. And it's never changed. And that, again, all those things they kept. And I remember because you don't see the VT until you're there on the show. So when you're on that dance floor waiting to dance and your heart is pounding, they're playing that VT in the studio. So you're seeing it with everyone else at home. And I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, they used it. They used everything. And then had the part of me going to my church of Nancy, like my old church in Romford and John's of St. James, and talking with my vicar and David Anderton, and just talking about what it was like to be in church. And then also I was talking about representation as well, and like comic books and stuff. So I was talking about two things that I really love, like kind of superheroes, comics, God, the idea that the reason that I loved comics was because it's about good overcoming evil, which I think is just the essence of, you know, the Christian message. And they kept it all. And I thought, this isn't the BBC. This isn't. Yeah. They're all about being impartial and scared about, you know, people getting offended for whatever. And they just kept it. And then the response I got after that week was incredible. The amount of people that said, thank you for talking about your faith and doing it like a normal person, not like preaching, just like being honest. You talked about it almost like it was a football team or something. It was just, you know, not to belittle it, but just going, this is my life. This is what it is. Yeah, this is it for me.
Did you feel vulnerable afterwards? Like basically everyone I work with now, I basically laid this on the table. Was there a moment when you felt a bit vulnerable?
I did and I didn't, because everyone that I worked with knew that I was a Christian. So like, in fact, one thing in CBBC, so Hacker the dog, his assistant, I would say, is a man called Phil Fletcher, and he's not a Christian, but he jokes with me about it all the time, and I'm always in good jest with it. And if I say something that he feels is not like on brand for me, that he thinks is a bit close to the knuck, I might say a joke that might have been a bit like, oh, he'll go like, Rhys, no, you're the Jesus one. You can't say that.
Classic.
But I think the most recent one he said is like, you're Christy. And I thought, okay, I'll take that. But I love that, because I think for me, he's not saying that as an insult. He's saying that as that's a compliment of love. Like, that's who you are. I like you like that. Don't change it. So no, I didn't feel it that way. But I think it was in terms of, it wasn't, not that I kept it secret from people. I never spoke about that publicly on TV. And I think the fear was, it makes me vulnerable to so much more scrutiny. I
wondered that, whether or not it makes you feel like, well, now that people are holding me to this high standard, do I have to like feel the pressure to live this perfect life?
Yeah, because it's, you know, then it could affect, what show do I take? You know, what project do I do? Are people going to look at that and go like, well, why is he playing this character? Why is he hosting this show if he's a Christian and he does this? And suddenly it becomes a lot more complicated. And so I just, and the thing is not, and it was the scrutiny I was worried about really from other Christians, not necessarily from non-Christians. Non-Christians might just go like, oh, okay, he's into Jesus, cool. Back to the show. Whereas then Christians now will suddenly look at everything I do and be quite intense with it. You know, even things as simple as CBBC do Halloween. And so we will dress up. And so for me, it's kind of like, all right, well, how do I navigate? Like, Strictly did Halloween week. It's like, how do I navigate this situation? And so that was the thing that made me feel really vulnerable. I thought, right, now that cards on the table, there's a chance now that I could be scrutinized for anything that I do. And I've just got to be prepared for that. But I'd rather people know who I am than hide that. So it was a thing of like, okay, but at no point was that a case for me to not do it.
And how do you navigate it, Rhys? Because I think there's a perception that in the media you can't be a Christian and it would make it really difficult. But I also think there's other people in other businesses or jobs, not in the media, but also would feel like, I'm not sure I can be open about my faith. It might make things difficult here or there. How do you navigate it? Do you have any advice for those listening who want to be more open with their faith?
I think integrity, one, is key. So if you're a person that doesn't indulge into certain things that many other people might think is normal, or just, part of the industry, and then they find out you're Christian, already some might be like, I sensed something like that. So I've had people that go, I thought you were, because of that already. So that already helps in terms of if the way that you are is how you are with them, as how you are in church and, in everyday life, that already makes it a lot easier. The second thing I say is just being open to talk about it. I think I used to get really nervous if someone, because I never initiate a talk about God, but a lot of people have with me. And I think at the beginning I get so nervous and then almost try to finish it as quickly as it started, because I didn't want to say anything that might have like contradicted or messed it up and then make them think, oh, wow, you've really put me off fully. Or I had this pressure almost like this is my chance to convert or inspire someone to Jesus now. And I had to take that pressure off and just enjoy talking about it in the same way, like I said before, that people will enjoy talking about football or a passion. I love people who are passionate about stuff. So I'm not into football, but I can listen to a person talk passionate about football for ages, because I just love, like, their eyes light up and their energy is different. They're radiating, and I'm like, that's cool. And it's like, if we can talk like that about Jesus to people,
so good.
Even if maybe it doesn't turn them on that spot, they'll think, wow, this thing must be incredible if it spurs you like this. So being open to talk about it and the energy of which you talk about it is huge. And I would say as well, not being too offended by things. And by that I mean, again, I work in an industry where sometimes people will make jokes about Christianity or God and stuff, and where it could be easy to take offense and be like, I'm upset by this. But sometimes I take it in jest, and I think to myself, look, God can handle a joke. God can handle things being said about him. That's not to say to maybe encourage it and belittle that, but I think there's been times where people have joked, and then I might say something that with the joke, but doesn't disrespect God, but in a way makes them go, wow, that was a good comeback. Okay, all right, fair enough. And then they kind of go, oh, okay, he can be fun. Like, oh, Christians can be fun. They can joke. They're not so like regimental and serious. So I think that's my main thing. I think it's integrity. I think it's enthusiasm with which you speak about God. And I think it's I think it's learning to take certain things lightly and not taking yourself too seriously either.
So good. You talked, when you mentioned the VT and Strictly, you said there are two things you're passionate about, God and then the comic book superhero. And you talked about representation and like representation in comic books. Is that something that you feel, is representation something you have felt passionate in the line of work that you're in?
Yeah.
And how does that play out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I started CBBC, I think the first thing I thought about was, oh my gosh, think of like the black kids that are going to see me there and see someone like them. And not that I was the first black person to ever be on CBBC, but by the time I joined, there wasn't many again. It was like ebbs and flows. So that was a big deal for me, and I really noticed it after I'd done CBBC. The first kids that noticed me when I was out and about were black children. All the time. And I was like, it's doing what I wanted. This is really great. In fact, I think the first time I was ever recognized, it was a black person, but he was like 17. I went,
why are you watching BBC?
It was like in McDonald's, and he went, it was like McDonald's. It was like, oh my gosh, you're the guy you're of CBBC. Oh, I watch my little brother all the time. That's him. And I was like, oh, okay. And then from then, like, it started. So representation's always been huge for me. I'm always looking at representation in things now, and it affects how I consume media and enjoy things. I like Bridgerton. I mean, I loved it. I love it for what it did in terms of the period drama, because weirdly enough, as a kid, I really liked period dramas. I don't know why. I just found them quite interesting. The world, the outfits, dresses. And then as I got older, I kind of fell off him because I was kind of like, there's no one who looks like me in this. And it's always perceived as if like black people never existed. Like one day in the 90s, they just emerged from the ocean and that was it. And so I kind of was like, not into it anymore. And then, you know, Bridgerton happened and completely just race-bended the whole thing. And I thought, this is amazing. I love this. Suddenly we've got like a Duke. That's a character I always would have loved to have played, but just thought I can't because I'm not allowed to. Yeah. And then suddenly that happened. And so representation, all of these things is a big deal for me. You know, even, you know, one thing, and this isn't to kind of attack the show, but like Friends is a whole, I remember talking about friends with someone, friends of a friend, and he was black as well. And we were talking about it and he went, I've never watched it. And I was like, why is that? There's no black people in it. And we all went, oh. And we're like, there's Charlie. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I remember sitting there trying to think of like a black man. And I went, I can't think of one. And I still love the show. I think it's great. And, you know, but I think it's really important to realize that was something, and that was the 90s. And it was New York. You know, there was really no excuse that was what it was. So for me now, I'm so on representation. If I see someone that doesn't look like me, and it's not just black people, I'm like, where are the Asian people? You know, where's there not someone who's Indian in this or something. So for me, I'm not just like, oh, there's a black person, there's an all-white cast after that, I'm fine with it. I'm looking at everything.
Do you feel like it's a gospel issue? Like outside of like our culture, do you think that there's like that perhaps is fueled by your Christian faith or
of representation? I guess in a way, I think it's more of the human side of me, but then the human side of me, I just think is intertwined with Christ. So I guess, yes, it is. But I just think everyone deserves to kind of see themselves in a way. But in fact, though, even within Christian media, I think it's so important as well, because I think you can see stuff where sometimes I'll watch, even like if I'm seeing a Christian thing and it's like an all white, you know, like on the preaching team and stuff, and it's all white, and especially like all white men or something, and where that was the norm 20 odd years ago, and I'll look at that and I'll kind of think, I won't switch off, but there's a part of me that's just kind of thinking, why is this the way it is? You know, and maybe, I don't know, maybe again, these were the people that just were available for the job or the best ones for the job. Fair enough. But then again, if you want Christianity to be for everyone, then you've got to show that. You need to show that in your people that you're putting on the stage, and not even on the stage, behind the stage as well. That's another thing. It's, you know, who behind the scenes, who's the camera up here, who's doing the sign, who's checking all of that kind of stuff as well, because not everyone wants to talk on stage. Maybe they want to be in the technical side of that. Is there representation there? I think sometimes we just get a little bit complacent and forget. Because, you know, especially because the thing is, if you're a white person, you've grown up mostly around white people and stuff, you might just, it's just not on your mind. And that's okay. That's fine if that's in your day-to-day life and you find that, oh, I don't have many black friends or Asian friends. It doesn't mean you have to go out and try and collect them. It's not Pokemon, but be aware, you know, be aware of other people, be aware that there are other cultures out there. If you want to discover that, that's great. If you're not that interested, at least just respect it. But then if you're going to do something that's going to go on television or that's going to be viewed by the masses and you want to have a diverse audience, have a diverse cast.
And presumably people are created in God's image. And if we're ever going to try and reflect, both as the church, if we're going to try and reflect God, we do that better if all of us are represented, because God didn't just make white people in his image. Like, you know, the more diverse we are, the better we reflect God's character.
And people, and it's funny because you know, I feel like Christianity's been, and the gospel's been taken by so many people, but like rewritten in so many people's own image, that sometimes you've got people who actually believe that the people in the Bible that they're reading about were white. And you're there like, no, Jesus wasn't. Like, none of them were. Like, the white people were probably the Romans. And they're perceived as like the antagonists in this whole thing. And people don't get that. So, yeah, representation for me is just, you know, I don't know if I'm militant. Maybe I'm militant about it, but I'm not visceral. I'm not violent about it, but I'm passionate about it. So if I don't see it, then I'm kind of like, okay, I'm switching off a tiny bit.
It's really good. We haven't got long left to ask you, but I've got a question. If you could be on any TV show, or you could play any character from TV history,
good question.
And also, you can answer if you want as well.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it's such a. Oh man, I wish I'd better answered. but like Doctor Who is
Yes.
massive.
Oh,
I would have loved, like, ever since
You still
like,
could you?
David Tennant. Well, I
David
guess
Tennant
David
is
Tennant was elite, and I was like, oh, I'd love to be like the first Black Doctor. Shoot, he got that now, which is chill. But I'll take second. I don't know.
He is gonna be good.
He's gonna be so good.
It's gonna be
but
great.
I would love to be in that. Playing the Doctor would have been amazing. But now, as I've seen it as well, maybe even the Master. There are so many characters in that universe that I would love to play. So yeah, Doctor Who is like the first thing that comes to my head with that one, because again, like, Doctor Who is that thing that's for everyone.
You'd
and they're
be a
starting to
great
branch out.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, you
I'd
would.
love
You
it.
need like a little bit of.
I feel like I'd be a bit of like Matt Smith's energy. I'd just be like a puppy running around the TARDIS. I would.
It's going to be a great new series.
If Russell T Davies is checking this out for whatever reason, bro, I'm always.
Yeah,
with
you heard it here first. Why? Who would you be?
I don't know. I've said it and had no answer. I'm trying to think in my head.
I don't know. I think I would do any kind of like princess movie. I know that's so girly, but you know, to like wear a big dress and be all princessy and like.
Yeah.
I grew up on chick flicks, so Cinderella story. You know.
Yeah.
Would you make it the kind of would you make it like classic princess, or would you have bits where she's like more independent, like fight, like look after herself at times and stuff?
I'd be Margot Robbie in the Barbie movie.
Oh, yeah,
That is my dream. I would
That
be
is a good
every
mix.
kind of
Yeah,
Barbie.
yeah.
I
Boss
would
Barbie
like
and
to
fun
play
Barbie.
Roy Kent in Ted Lasso.
Oh
That
yes!
is a really
Can you do the like?
I've started watching a few
No,
of
actually,
them.
I'd be terrible at Roy Kent.
Roy Kent is
I could be Jamie.
brilliant though. He's just, I agree with you. Like because I love there's something about playing a character that's so different from you, and he's so angry.
Yeah.
But he's sweet as well. He's a good man, but
Yeah.
just gruff. And
Yeah.
and he's brilliant.
That's great.
Rhys, it's been amazing having you on the Thank you so much for coming all the way down as well from Manchester to join us on the podcast.
Guys, absolute pleasure. It was worth it. I wish it was longer. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
Thank
really
you,
great
Rhys.
having you with us.
Well, if you've enjoyed listening, if you have any more 40 before 40s for Al, please do send them in. You can DM us on our socials, Run Alpha, or you can email us at uk@alpha.org and put podcast in the subject, or send in any questions, anything you're curious to know. We'd love to answer it. But thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
See you.